All right, so it has been quite some time since I've done any serious amount of organizing in the garage. I think it's been about 5 months or so. Kind of got sidetracked with other things, and the garage has kind of gotten a bit out of control. So I figure I was joking with Craig of Craig's Workshop a week or so ago that people like us kind of need a 12-step program for garage organization, and that kind of got me thinking that I need to get myself motivated and get back into the groove. But so anyways, that's what today's video is going to be about. But before I do that, I wanted to point out a few new channels that have come to my attention. Depth of Cut, Haxby Shed, Foxberg's Fabricoblin, and Topper Machine LLC. I'll try to get links to their channels in the description, but I probably won't be until, I don't know, 30 minutes or so after this video is uploaded. So Depth of Cut is one I don't think you can search for very easily because it brings up all kinds of other things other than, you know, the guy's channel. But I kind of wish there was a good way to keep, or to make it easier to find channels, small channels with interesting content. So I'm kind of contemplating starting a list of them and putting it on my About page. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. I came up with a few things that would be, I think, very effective points for me to attempt to solve. The first on my list was basically getting stuff out of the garage. So what you can see on the bed of the truck right now is going out to storage because it just doesn't get used that often. I have a truck going out there frequently, so with a little bit of pre-planning, anything that's on the truck that I feel like I'm going to be needing in an upcoming project, all I got to do is toss it back on the truck when I come home. So there's no sense in that stuff being in the garage, especially now that I've got, you know, some significant space available to me. So that's probably that is going to be the biggest thing, and it's already made a huge impact in the garage, which I'll walk you around the garage here in a minute to show you. But the way this kind of even came to my attention about a week ago, other than making that joke with Craig, was I walked out to the garage after having some organization over the past several months, and I was getting ready to do a milling project, and, well, no, I'll turn you around, that's the same damn thing now. That mill has a bunch of crap on it. That mill has a bunch of crap on it. Even the Hindi has crap on it. So it's like, what good is having these machines if I never have the ability to use them without clearing them off first? It's just, it winds up becoming an obstruction to progress, to, you know, starting any sort of project. So, you know, I sat down and was beating my head against the wall the last few days trying to come up with a set of rules, kind of like, you know, 10 commandments for, at least for me, because I mean, the reality is organization is highly personalized. What works for Quinn or Joe Pazinski or A-Bomb isn't going to work for me, or work for Rustinox or anybody else for that matter. And while I'm not going to say that I'm poor by any stretch of the imagination, I am frugal, and I'm not going to spend tons of money on organizational things. So something dawned on me. It's not so much about the stuff that I have, it's more about my mindset and how I approach these issues. So anyways, let me see here. What was some of the other things that came up to me? So one of the issues that I constantly have is I'll be working on the Logan lathe and I'll constantly be needing a set of calipers or a tool that, or a piece that I need to fit to it. And what I wind up doing is I'll just set the calipers over here on the mill. Then I'll set the drill bit that I use on the mill, and so on and so forth. And before you know it, the mill just winds up being covered with stuff from the project that I'm working on an adjacent machine. So one of the things I'm contemplating trying to do is making a wooden rack specifically for any of the types of tools that I know I'll be using on a project, and if all possible, trying to make that rack move from one workstation to another. And keeping in mind that I'm right-handed, so my theory would be then, if I'm over here working on the lathe, doing a project, if I had a rack, a wooden rack, suspended right here that had my vernier caliper, or my digital calipers in it, my little square that I often get, tap wrench, tap drill bits, a wrench, anything that I need, have it hang right there on a temporary system of some kind. And then, let's say I need to take that particular part over to one of the mills. Then, ideally, it would be great if I could have a rack suspended in this area right here, again, for the same purpose. I need to take a measurement with the caliper, I get done with it, I put it back. So, it's things like that are, I think, going to be the biggest improvement for me. So that one is also pretty darn high on my list, along with you can see right here I have a small rack specifically for the Brown and Sharp number 7 collets that fit that particular mill. Well, I need to do something similar to the Cochran Bly. I need to get my Brown and Sharp number 9s suspended overhead on some kind of rack. And I'm still working out the details on just exactly what type of rack I'd like to have for this purpose. But the Brown and Sharp number 9 collets, the Brown and Sharp number 9 cutters and arbors and whatnot, since I've got a pretty fair amount of additional tooling for this machine, I really need to address that, because that was one of the big things that was covering that mill. So before I started working on that project, I had to get all of that stuff off. In fact, I don't know if you can really make it out or not, but it's right here on the workbench right now, which is another absolute disaster. And I had made progress on that as well. So anyways, those are two of my highest priority things that I want to address. And one thing that I'm doing right now, or what I'm making a conscious effort, is I've got it actually scheduled on my phone to remind me in 9 days. Well, actually, it's going to be 8 days the first go around, but my thing is 9 days. Every 9 days, I need to be out in the garage and I need to be doing some kind of organizational work. Even if it's just 10, 20 minutes, it'll make a massive, massive difference for me. And keep in mind, I'm a bit of a slob anyways, so I have to put a conscious effort into this. So, one other thing, another one that's pretty big on the list, pretty high on the list, is I've already got some degree of crude organization for the Logan. I need to go back over it because I've got a whole slew of drill bits just laying loose up here. So anytime I want a drill bit from those, that's not my common ones that I normally use, I have to dig through there and get them out. If I want my crescent wrench, I have to pull this wrench off to get to the crescent wrench, or this other wrench. So I need to take this a step further. I did the very basics. I did the minimal amount necessary to get it to where it is right now, and I stopped. And that was fine for a while, but I keep adding to it. So I need to add a little bit more. And another issue that's fairly high on the list, not as high, the mills, and the mills are the number one priority to me. Other than just the general space of the garage, the mills are the highest priority to me. I think to a lot of people it's kind of the lathe, but for me it's the opposite way around. But another priority that's pretty well up there is making something like the backstop of the Logan for the Hindi lathe. So I'll be over here doing... Now granted, I don't use this lathe nearly as much as I do the Logan, but I'll be doing a project here, and then I have to turn around here and try to find whatever cutter or drill bit that I need from back here for here. So I need there again to put some sort of suspended tool rack up in this area here for the Hindi. And every one of these stations is going to be unique to those particular machines. Now, the shaper that you can see off here in the background isn't really going to be much of an issue. It's hopefully on its way out the door. Granted, it'll probably be a year before I get around to getting enough of the repairs finished to even think about selling it, but in theory, it's been replaced by the Cochran Bly, because of the fact that the Cochran Bly has a slotter / shaper built into it. So hopefully that will be out the door. But let's see, what else was there? Stuff that was really, really low on the list was organizing the drill press, doing something with the grinders, which, if I remember before the end of the video, I've got a really slick idea for how I'm going to manage grinders, but I'll probably wind up forgetting. Organizing the weld cart. The welder cart is another one that's kind of a train wreck, but I tend to not do a ton of welding, so it's not the highest priority. Drill bit and tap organization, those are ones that they're going to throw me for a loop for quite a while. I know the way I'd like to do it, but the way I'd like to do it is going to be kind of time consuming, so I don't know that I'll actually do it that way for sure. Basically, I'd like to make a wooden tray with every tap having a slot, a nice little slot with a cutout that I can get my fat fingers in there and retrieve it as I need it, and have it in such a way that I can take it from one workstation to another as needed. But like I said, I just don't think that one's going to work out quite the way I've got it in my head. So much thought will be necessary on those two. One other thing that I've got on my list, and the list that I'm telling you right now is a condensed version of the things that I've come up with. But one other thing that's on my list to attend to is a shelf purge. I'll take you around the garage now. I have a bad habit of collecting things and they just sit there forever. Now granted, this set of shelves has already been purged, and then it's kind of, the chaos is kind of starting up again. So this is kind of the crap I'm talking about. This is just ridiculous. And every shelf like this, I need to go through and determine how useful the things actually are. So that shelf and those shelves, that sort of stuff. Here's another good example. Now, this is lower on the list because they don't affect working with the machines, which has the highest priority by far. But one of the things that's always thrown me for a loop is the fact that this garage is multi-purpose. I do painting in here, I do welding in here, I do woodwork in here, automotive repairs, truck repairs, garden tractors, you name it. Heck, I've even had a telescope stored in here from time to time. So anyways, here is one of the, this was the corner of no return, and basically I've gotten virtually every single thing out of this corner. So now, of course, what I'll probably do is I'll probably put more stuff in that corner that is hardly ever used, but whatever, I guess. Got to start somewhere. And there may be a channel name change coming up in the future, so we'll see. I've been contemplating that for some time as well. There was a Wisconsin engine sitting there for some time. It was originally going to be this winter's project, but since I've gotten into this new rental properties, it's not going to be a project for quite some time. And of course, the workbench, which up until a couple of months ago was usable. So shame on me, Let's see. Oh, here, let me put you guys back up on the stand for a minute and show you one of the more interesting projects that I hope to be able to do in the distant future. So I have an enormous 16-inch rotary table and a couple of big lathe chucks, 4-jaw chucks and whatnot. I've got the 10-inch rotary table. I've got the dividing head. So 10-inch rotary, the dividing head. Yeah, what else was there? Anyways, I've got like, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 10 heavy items that are accessories to all 4 of the machines. That would be kind of nice if they were on one big heavy roll around thing. So I've started kind of putting together ideas on just exactly what kind of cart would be practical. And obviously this is a very crude drawing, and it's not going to make sense to anybody but me, and that's assuming I actually get to this before I wind up with some form of dementia or something. But ultimately, a cart, a big heavy metal cart that can fit underneath of the workbench and be rolled around to any of my workstations as needed. So one of the things that I did try to kind of pre-plan a little bit was the hoist. I wanted to have this hoist, and obviously the hoist isn't on it at the moment, but I wanted to have this positioned in such a manner that it could serve the Hindi, the Logan, this mill, and to a lesser extent that mill. But anything that's so heavy that it needs to go on the Cochran Bly, I can set it on the table for that mill and slide it over to that mill. So, and that was kind of the thinking along that. Well, that, and eventually, in theory, hopefully, I won't have two mills. But as it stands right now, with the slow speed of the Cochran Bly, I really have to have a normal mill so that I can do most of the work. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update, kind of bring you along for my thinking, and I don't know, kind of root me on, I guess, a little bit. Let's see if I can get up here and show you without killing myself. So this is all stuff that was, with the exception of that arbor press, or that press there, and that box in the corner. This is pretty much all stuff that was in the garage taking up space. And I've got more stuff I plan to take out to storage, but I kind of ran out of steam a little bit today. So anyways, I'm gonna stop here, get this video uploaded, and hopefully I'll catch up with you guys later.